If Jesus were born today, he would be born under the rubble in Gaza. Those are the words of the Palestinian Christian pastor, Reverend Munther Isaac. He has been brutally honest about his own struggle to keep the faith after more than 2 years of Israel's genocide in Gaza. And today he speaks to me here on Roundtable. Hello and welcome to Roundtable. I'm Enda Brady and a very happy Christmas to you. On today's show, I am delighted to welcome the Reverend Munther Isaac. He's a Palestinian pastor who worked in Bethlehem for many years and is now based in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Reverend Isaac has been very vocal in his criticism of the West and its lack of response to the genocide in Gaza. His sermon, Christ in the Rubble, went viral and formed the basis of his book with the same title. Reverend, thank you so much for joining us. Normally, I would wish you, on this of all days, a very happy Christmas, but I'm guessing after the 2 years you've had with your Palestinian congregation, this is very much far from being a happy Christmas.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And of course, for all those who are watching, I wish you a happy Christmas from Palestine, the land of Christmas. And you're right. I think right now we have some contradictory emotions. On the one hand, we want to celebrate normally. We wish to celebrate normally in our land, in dignity, without having to think of the prospects of war or wars or genocides. Yet at the same time, like all Palestinians, Palestinian Christians are resilient. We look for every opportunity to emphasize that this is our land, we want to live, and we want to feel normal, even if for a short moment. And I think prayer allows us to feel normal. Prayer allows us to feel close to the divine. Brings us some sense of comfort and healing, even peace. Even if for small time when we pray, when we think of the Christmas story itself, allows us to step outside of the norm of conflicts, checkpoints, apartheid, genocide, and to experience some sense of peace. But the reality, as I said, is that of contradiction. We're still mourning the loss of those loved ones in Gaza. We're still thinking of the memory that will never leave us soon of this genocide. We still live in fear that this could happen anytime to any of us here in the West Bank. But we see in Christmas an opportunity to experience normality and celebrate and feel some sense of peace and comfort, even if for a short moment.
Reverend, what is daily life like for Palestinian Christians? You mentioned roadblocks just there. How difficult is it for you to practice your faith?
Life in Palestine in general is very difficult. We live under a very strict constraints in our movement. Everything is controlled. Every bit of life, not just movement, is controlled. And just to think that, of course, Bethlehem is now, to go to Bethlehem, for example, from Ramallah, you have to go through several checkpoints. You have to wish that the checkpoint is open or is not delaying us so much. What should usually take a 40-minute drive could take up to 3 hours right now because of the checkpoints. So it's hard for many of us even to think of the idea of leaving now our confined areas. It's hard to explain. Maybe the best way to explain what's happening in the West Bank right now is to say that what we're going through right now is what was happening in Gaza 25 years ago, but on different level. Ramallah, all it takes is to close 2-3 checkpoints. It becomes another Gaza, completely isolated from the world. The same with Bethlehem. And so most of our lives right now is confined within the areas of our residency. We don't leave Ramallah, or those in Bethlehem don't leave Bethlehem for 2 reasons. First, you don't want to be stuck on checkpoints for hours or harassed or even attacked. And second, you're afraid when you drive in between Palestinian towns. We drive on the roads shared by the settlers, the very radical extreme settlers, and they could harm us at any moment without accountability. So we live in this constant fear and try to avoid traveling so much. Our life has become really confined into big prisons. And by the way, for those around the world, I'm not even talking about going to Jerusalem. When we think of the Christian presence in Palestine, we usually think of Jerusalem, Nazareth, and Bethlehem. And now we are completely cut off in Bethlehem from Jerusalem and Nazareth. For the first time in history, Jerusalem, especially in Bethlehem, are very close to one another. We can't go to Jerusalem as Palestinians without a permit from the military because we're still under occupation. That's what people don't get. We still live under the control of the Israeli military. So these restraints, this kind of fear is the norm right now, unfortunately, for us in Palestine.
Reverend, you used a phrase earlier on describing Palestine as the land of Christmas, and you speak so movingly about Bethlehem. Do you think the rest of the Christian world has forgotten you and forgotten the Christmas story?
We certainly feel so. And that's how we feel given the attitudes of many Christians around the world. If we are honest, we can even talk about some sort of a replacement that happened in the conscious of the Western Christian mind when they think of the Holy Land. They no longer think of the indigenous communities that live there, that has kept the faith and even the holy sites for generations upon generation and continued that Christian presence. Instead, they think of maybe at best, visiting the sites, or they think of Israel, fantasies about the Jewish people and the eschatology and what happens in the end times and so on. And so we have disappeared in the conscience of many Western European Christians and American Christians. They link the land more with Israel, the end times maybe, and they seem to us at least, and I'm definitely exaggerating. I'm not talking about everyone because there are those who stand with us with what we call costly solidarity, but it seems that not many seem to be serious enough about the prospect of losing the Christian presence in Palestine, which today has become a real danger. Our numbers continue to decline. In the last 2 years, we've witnessed unfortunately, thousands of Palestinian Christians leave Palestine out of fear, let alone those who were killed in Gaza, either directly by the attacks or indirectly by the lack of medical attention. And so when we look at all of this combined, the support of many in the West, not all, many Christians to Israel, we think, did they forgotten about, or do they care? I mean, not as if they don't know. I mean, the problem is that we ask, do they care? Do they look at us with concern that one day the Christian presence will disappear? So it's hard to hide our frustrations or disappointment. And again, I don't want to undermine the efforts of many who support us, who stand with us. Although, to be honest, we hope they could do more, especially when it comes to political pressure. But to answer your question, sorry, a long answer, we certainly forgotten or ignored many times.
Reverend, can I ask you, the new Pope, Pope Leo, he has so much power to do good, and a visit from him would be covered by the global media. Why hasn't he traveled to Palestine to spend time with Palestinian Christians? Do you find that upsetting that there's been no reach out so far from the Vatican?
There has been reach out with the churches here for sure. They are supporting, they are speaking, they are empowering our presence. But I think you're absolutely right in that an actual visit will make a bigger difference.
Reverend, many millions of homes around the world will have a nativity scene this Christmas. Your sermon, Christ in the Rubble, and the nativity scene that you put together showing the baby Jesus born under rubble and bricks, that went viral and reached so many people. Do you think we're really losing the focus this Christmas, that people are celebrating, people are partying all over the world, and people are having a good time, while our Palestinian brothers and sisters in Christianity are having such a desperately difficult time?
Yes, and unfortunately, and I talked about this contrast the first time I traveled during the war to the United States in November 2023. And I was shocked that even then, in November, a month before Christmas, every street was decorated, every mall was decorated. And I said, they send us bombs and celebrate Christmas, the Prince of Peace in their land, while sending bombs to our land. And we always wonder, do they think of Bethlehem as a mythical city or an actual city with people? When they think of the land of Christmas, do they think of the people who live there? Or they simply think of a mythical land in their imagination? And with everything that happened in the last month, ceasefire, which we hope will last, and the talks about peace, we fear that the focus will now go from Palestine. But we know too well that peace without justice will not last. And without really respecting the dignity, the full rights of people, the right of self-determination of people, you're only delaying the next cycle of violence, in which, again, the occupied, the colonized will be blamed because they control the narrative. And so we fear now that people think it's over. And when we talk about the Christmas story, at the heart of that story is a refugee family that had to flee Bethlehem and find refuge in Egypt. I hope people remember that as they celebrate this year, there are close to 2 million refugees, including their siblings in Christ in Gaza. 2 million in Gaza alone, without home, fighting cold, fighting illnesses, and very terrible human conditions. So again, people think of Christmas in different ways, and we wish they think of the reality, the concreteness of Christmas, of families here in Palestine, of urgent need of intervention. If people think the war is over, then no, it's not. We still live under occupation. We still live under apartheid. And at the same time, I lament as a man of faith, and I hope others join me, the fact that war criminals were not held accountable. Those who committed war crimes and genocide were not held accountable. So this is the real pain that exists right now in Palestine, the land of Christmas. And you're right to point to the absolute contradiction that exists, because millions, tens, hundreds of millions around the world are far, far removed from this reality. And to them, Christmas is just exchanging gifts, maybe parties, celebrations, Christmas trees, without, apart from, far, as I said, from the reality we live in.
Reverend, Israel calls itself the only democracy in the Middle East, but in any genuine democracy, religious freedom is pretty much enshrined in daily life. Do you feel you have religious freedom in terms of saying Mass, visiting congregation members who may be sick or vulnerable? Do you have any freedoms?
Let's be clear about that idea of Israel as the only democracy in the Middle East. The reports are clear. The reality is clear. It can no longer be denied or hidden. Israel is an apartheid state. Israel is based on Jewish supremacy. This is codified in the nation-state law. We're not making this up or inventing it. Israel is, first and foremost, as they see it, a Jewish state in which the right for self-determination is exclusive, as they say in the nation-state law, to the Jewish people only. And for those of us Palestinians in the land who are not able to visit Jerusalem, and when I say visit, Jerusalem is a Palestinian city in our mind. We have relatives who live there. We have family members. We have friends. And the idea that we're cut off from Jerusalem, in our understanding, this is an assault on our religious freedom as indigenous people of the land who for 2,000 years went back and from Nazareth, Bethlehem, Jerusalem. We lived all these religious holidays that are so dear to our faith. And now we live in this new reality in which we are cut off from Jerusalem. And as Palestinians, we are discriminated against in this system of apartheid. As Palestinians, we live under military rule in the West Bank. Yes, we have a Palestinian Authority. Yes, we have self-governance, but let's not kid ourselves. The ultimate authority here is for the Israeli military. They control the air, they control the underground, they control the water, they control the family registration. And so as much as, we are Palestinians, we are discriminated against, and that's the real issue. And one final thing I think it's important to highlight is that in the last few years, you will even notice that our bishops, the heads of churches, the patriarchs, are raising alarm about the systematic and intensified attacks against Palestinian Christians and against Christians in Jerusalem, whether it's hateful graffiti, whether it's spitting on clergy, and all of this without any accountability, let's be clear. And in the West Bank, we've witnessed the attack on many Palestinian villages that include Palestinian Christian villages. And to the extent that we're now feeling that we are targeted as Christians.
Reverend, can I just ask you? You mentioned a phrase. You mentioned a phrase there. You just said being spat upon. I've seen these videos online. I've seen how Christian clergy and indeed anyone wearing a crucifix is treated by Orthodox Jewish people, and I'm not saying everyone, but a significant percentage of people do spit upon Christians. Can you just verify that for us?
Yes, of course. It's very common. If you walk in Jerusalem with a crucifix, like most clergy do, or even nuns, you will be spit on by some Israeli religious fanatics. And, I appreciate you said not all. And of course, we don't say this is all representative of all Jews. But let's be very, very clear. The problem is not few radical groups or individuals. We're talking about a system. We're talking about a system in which when Israeli Jews commit crimes, they are not held accountable. A system that encourages such bigotry and supremacy and hatred towards non-Jews. That's Zionism. And that's what upsets me many times when we address these issues, especially in interfaith circles. I know people condemn the attackers as individuals or fringe groups, while not realizing that they are part and parcel of a matrix of racism, Zionism. That is what Zionism is. And so the more you talk about a Jewish state, Jewish supremacy, the nation state law, and the more you normalize personalities like Ben Gvir and Smotrich, who are openly racist against Palestinians, they don't even try to hide it, then that is the natural result. People being spit at without consequences. And let's not forget what happens against Muslim worshippers who try to go to Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem.
I was just about to ask, Reverend.
That's the kind of result of all of this.
Reverend, I was just about to ask about other religious groups, how they are treated by Israelis. So what you see done to Christians is also done to Muslims who just want to go pray.
Yes, and Christians and Muslims, especially in East Jerusalem, and we see this phenomenon, especially in the Old City, because Israel is so keen on what we say Judaizing Jerusalem, making it predominantly a Jewish city with Christian and Muslim minorities, and they will say we are kind enough to let them pray in their holy sites. With the Christian community, they prefer if we're all internationals, not Palestinians ourselves. And so going to houses of worship is controlled by Israel, whether, as I said, it's to the mosque or the most notable Christian experiences when in Easter, because Bethlehem, Christmas, Jerusalem, Easter. In Easter, there is a famous religious holiday or festival, or it's a prayer actually, Holy Saturday, Sebt an-Nur, in which there's prayer happening on the tomb of Jesus on Saturday before Easter Sunday, and light comes from the church that goes to all over the world. Israel limits the number of people who can worship on that day in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. They put barricades, and they wouldn't let even the Jerusalemites who live in the old city go freely to their houses of worship. They control how many people can pray. They would limit the number from 10,000 to 2,000 and so on. I mean, who are you? I mean, to begin with, East Jerusalem is occupied. It's not under your jurisdiction. It's illegal for you to control the areas there. But even as an occupying force, who are you to tell churches how many people can pray and how many people cannot pray? So, and the same, of course, apply to Muslims in Al-Aqsa Mosque. So, yes, I mean, that's all part of the system of discrimination against all non-Jews in Israel.
Reverend, as we look towards 2026, there will be people watching who all over the world will be of all faiths and none. What is your message of hope this Christmas to people watching?
My message of hope comes from, how we say it, the reason for the season, to borrow that phrase. A very resilient family that endured, gave birth in difficult circumstances to a child under empire, under occupation, survived a massacre to the children of Bethlehem when he was born, celebrated by shepherds as a sign not just of humility, but a sign of who are the heralds of this new spiritual kingdom that is now breaking into our world. And then surviving yet again by becoming a refugee in Egypt. So we look at the center of that story, Christmas narrative, Jesus, who's called Emmanuel, God with us. And I think I find hope and courage in the idea that God is with us precisely on this side of the apartheid wall. God is with us when we are the victims of empire and religious extremism. God is with us when we are homeless, displaced, when we live in the context of massacres, of wars. And then we look at how that child ended up later in life serving, making a difference, saving the world according to our Christian faith, speaking truth to power, guaranteeing life to humanity. When we think of the resilience even of Jesus himself, we are inspired. We are inspired that the final word does not belong to Herod, who tried to kill the children of Bethlehem and who killed many of them, and that the final word does not belong to the forces of darkness, of bigotry, to the logic of might is right that controlled or was at play at Jesus' time and is still at play today when we think we can bring peace by force. Even in Jesus' time, they talked about these issues, Pax Romanos. And we remember today that it's not Caesar or Herod that we're celebrating, it's Jesus. It's the one they tried to kill and as a child, the one even they crucified as a young man, but ultimately he brought redemption and salvation to humanity. That's our faith. And in that faith, we endure, we persevere, we find courage to continue despite what our eyes tell us. We function by faith, not by sight.
Reverend, my final question to you this Christmas. It's your first Christmas preaching in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. How have you spent Christmas Day?
I spent it with my family, the immediate one, my wife and children, with my second family, my new congregation here in Ramallah, a vibrant, resilient community, and then with my extended family. Palestine and Palestinians are very community-oriented, family-oriented. That's where, I feel hope is found, peace is found, and that's where we encounter God, I think, among people. And so to us, whether it's Christmas Eve when we have children playing drama, playing the Christmas plays, singing, giving them gifts to see their joy, to encourage them to think of children around the world, including in Gaza, who don't have the same opportunities. And then next day on Christmas Day, again with our families, that's what Christmas is about.
Reverend Munther Isaac, thank you so much for sharing time with us this Christmas Day. You are an incredible man. Keep being brilliant, and we wish you and your family the happiest of Christmases. Shukran jazilan.
Thank you for having me again. And despite everything that's happening in our world, and certainly here in Palestine, from Palestine, we say Merry Christmas to the world.
Thank you, Reverend. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Just search for Roundtable TRT World. But for now, from me, Enda Brady, and all the team here, goodbye, and thank you for watching.